First in our lineup is a session called Actually Khan, What is Your Story? So this session will be done by our creative gurus, Sa'ad Hussein, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of PIXERF and also a partner here at Bawatana, as well as Edmund Choe, who is the Chief Creative Officer of Dentsu Aegis Network. So today they'll be discussing the importance of your brand story and setting your brand off on the right foot in order to succeed in future. So welcoming Sa'ad and Ed.
Hi, everyone.
Good morning. Hi.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? Aisha, how many people are on board now? Aisha, can you hear me, Ed?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you and I can see you.
Oh, you
We've got about 8
great,
of us at the moment.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, let me just share my screen before we go ahead. Okay, hi everyone. Okay, today, as much as we want to share about storytelling and all that, I think we have to go back to the basics of what we need to do with a brand. Ed and I, basically, we're going to talk about brand essence and brand voice, which is basically the first few foundation that you have to do before even you tell your stories to your audiences or to your market, right? And I think as people start coming in, right, let's just do a brief introduction about myself and about Ed. Okay, I'll talk about myself first. I think in terms of experience, we've gone through almost 30 years of branding, advertising, and marketing experience. And yeah, basically my last big stint was back in TWA Group Malaysia, and I was the chairman there. And I started a small agency in Malaysia back about 20 years back, and sort of sold it to the TWA network, which is a global network. And in terms of through the years, I've worked through many clients, notably Sony, Dentsu, McDonald's, Nissan, Apple, and even our local brands like RHB, DG, U-Mobile, even T-Life. And of course, we picked up a couple of awards, both effectiveness and creative awards. And I think for me, I love to work with challenger brands. I mean, small brands who are just starting out and all that, especially like startups and all, because I feel that it's almost like an open book, a fresh page, where we actually can build brands and challenge established brands out there and make a dent, especially Malaysian brands or even Asian brands itself. And for now, I'm the partner of Bawatana. At the same time, I'm also part of a startup. I'm a CMO of PIXERF. Do look it up. Quite an interesting startup. But again, the idea of me working with the startup is basically getting to understand the startup culture, the startup world, and all that. So at least we can be relevant in terms of how we tell our stories to future startups out there. Okay, Ed, back to you.
Okay, next slide. So I'm Edmund Choe. I am one of the partners and mentor for Bawatana. My background goes back quite a number of years. I was originally trained as a graphic designer, and then I kind of stumbled into advertising, where I've stayed for over 30 years. And during my time in advertising and the communications industry, I was lucky enough to be able to work with some really big, successful networks, including Saatchi & Saatchi, Ogilvy and Mather, which is Ogilvy now, TBWA, and most recently, and today, I'm with Dentsu. I've also been very fortunate to be able to work across the region in different markets, where when I was in Saatchi & Saatchi, I moved to China for a couple of years. And then the TBWA, I worked in Southeast Asia, based in Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, and this time Vietnam, where I've also worked with many key clients. Over the years, I've worked with many clients, but to name just a few, worked with Visa, Toyota, McDonald's, Adidas, Singapore Airlines, across all the different markets. I really enjoy working in Southeast Asia a lot, and I tried not to move out of Southeast Asia. In fact, I've immersed myself mostly into emerging markets. Right now, I'm based in Vietnam. I'm Chief Creative Officer for Dentsu Indochina. And I've always liked working in emerging markets because there's something about the emerging markets. I've always been a champion for the underdogs here. And I like to be part and help the growth of smaller, like you guys, like startups and companies and markets, because I just see the potential. I like working with potential. And so I've always immersed myself in emerging markets and try working with startups and new brands. Through the years, I've gained this reputation of being a mentor, where I've helped not just companies but individuals grow in their respective careers, building on their strength and all that. And for some reason, maybe it's just the way I look. I've earned this nickname across the region as the Buddha. So I would like to take that as a compliment. So I've been in the business for many, many years. I've met a lot of people. I've met a lot of clients. I've helped build small businesses. I've helped build big brands across the region. And most importantly, I've really enjoyed working with, like I said, I'm a champion for underdogs. So I've always enjoyed working with beginners. And because I think there's a lot of potential there, and I enjoy being part of the growth. So today is just an hour, but I look forward to spending some time with you guys, and hopefully this will lead to some kind of fruitful relationship or partnership. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoy yourself today, and please ask as many questions as you want. We are here to help in many ways. So now I'll just pass it to Sa'ad to start our session today.
Yeah, just as a reminder, please use the chat function in your Zoom. I'll be asking a few questions, and at the same time, if you have any questions along the way, please type it in. So we will try to answer it at the end of the session. We'll try to make it so that we can have like 10 minutes for questions and answers. And yeah, I think let's keep it a very open, informal kind of session. There's a lot to learn. It might be too heavy, so sometimes you need to stop and maybe ask some questions if you really need some clarification. And both Ed and I will chip in whenever we can during the presentation itself. Yeah, and maybe if you guys don't know Ed, I think you guys have to look at some of his work, especially the ones in Malaysia. I got to know Ed more than 10 years ago back in Malaysia. We were in competing agencies, but both of us, I think we both have mutual respect for each other in terms of what we do, and always trying to challenge ourselves in terms of the creative work and all that. And I've utmost respect to what Ed and his team has been doing for the past 25 years. Okay, moving on. I think before we go into the brand essence and the brand voice, Bawatana itself, basically what we do when we have sessions with startups, we would love them to start with this thing that we call the brand model canvas. It is based out of the business model canvas, the popular one, and basically what we do is we've made it more relevant to brands. And after working through this, I think it's something that all brands, even established brands, actually should have. It's one piece of paper with basically 10 different questions or columns that if you can answer all of them precisely and succinctly, clearly, I think it would definitely help you and guide any startups or any brands moving forward. Traditionally, usually brands will have a big brand book that they use as a guide, and usually it's tossed at one side, and until whenever they need it, they'll look through the brand book. But with this, I think it's just one piece of paper that with 10 different questions or 10 different points that you can actually define who you are as a brand and use that as your master whenever you do your marketing or whenever you do your brand check and brand health. It allows you to be consistent. It allows you to basically do a check-in in terms of who you are and why did you start up this particular brand or start up this particular company. So within this brand model canvas itself, we cover things like brand essence, brand promise, brand mission, brand vision. I think it's quite a basic stuff, but all put under one page. And of course, we talk about your target customers or target audience. We'll talk about how do you reach out, the touch points that you reach out to your channels, and the kind of content that you should actually roll out. Of course, we'll definitely talk about the kind of products that you have, and it's all guided by your brand values, your brand voice, your brand vision, your brand mission, your brand promise, and brand essence. We go through this through almost 3 sessions with any of our startups or investees to really drill down in terms of who you are as a brand, because it's not just about the logo, it's not about just your product, but basically it's about what you want to build as a brand before you reach out and sell your product to or services to the target audience. So these are the 10 different things that's very important to us as Bawatana. And it's something that's applied to even my own startup in Singapore. So it helps a lot if you really know how to define who you are as a brand, and this will definitely help you. So for today, I think we won't cover all 10. Ed and I will sort of discuss the thing. We need to maybe cover just 2 things, basically brand essence and brand voice. Brand essence, where it is all about your brand in a sentence, a proposition, a tagline, and brand voice, basically your tone, style, and personality, and in terms of how you reach out to your target audience. Right. So let's go and dive down into the brand essence itself. Um, a lot of people will ask me, what does it mean? What to have a brand essence? Do I need to have my brand mission first and brand vision first before I come with the essence? I think it's almost a combination of all this. Um, even if you fill up all that 10 boxes, if you can sort of dilute it or bring it down to one word, what is that? And that would be your brand essence. It basically describes who you are. So when you talk about what is brand essence, um, you're looking at what I mentioned again. It's some of them use it as a tagline, right? Some of you say that it's a brand proposition. Some of them say it's just a simple sentence that basically describes who you are. Um, but if you can have that sentence in the most concise manner, that means even if it goes down to just one word, I think it basically helps you understand your brand better. A lot of people just comes up with very basic, common statements. But I think it's important to come up with something that is just true to your brand. And like I mentioned earlier, basically it sort of defines who you are. It is your core and your core characteristic of who the brand is, right? If you're a startup that goes into transport, um, you have to define yourself within that transport industry, who you are uh, in one of a simple 3-4 words kind of sentence. Um, and some of them are saying that it is almost like a feeling, right? It's sometimes you cannot see, whether it's going to be like love, right? It's something that you can see, but you can actually feel. So this is basically something that audiences, when they look at your brand, um, with this definition of brand essence, it will allow your audience to basically understand you even through intangible ways, right? It might be an emotional connection there. So it gives your brand uniqueness. It brings your brand a bit of reliability and stability in terms of who you are. And lastly, it's about being authentic, right? Um, it is sometimes the brand owners themselves have to basically define it, because they are the ones who created this particular product or brand or company, right? So and there's always that authenticism in terms of why you build this company. So keeping it authentic is very important in terms of rather than it's because everyone's doing it. I think that it must come from the heart, and it must come from basically in terms of um, true to yourself in terms of what you want to do with the brand. And this authenticity has to be scalable also, in the sense that if a company becomes bigger and you add on more products or services, it should actually grow with time. It should actually grow with the scalability of your business. And because there'll be more add-ons, there'll be more marketing activities, there'll be more, but at the same time, it should still stay true to who you are as a brand, right? Ed, you want to add anything else on this?
Yeah, I think, another way of looking into brand essence, because, we are in marketing now. At the end of the day, we have a brand, we want to make money and all that. But I think the simplest way to look at it for me, it's basically, if you imagine you are your brand, and the brand essence ultimately is you looking inside and going, who am I? What am I about? If you look in life in general, if you don't really know exactly who you are and what you're about, you often get lost in terms of what you want to do, where you want to go, how you want to behave, and how your friends and people around you see you. So if you think yourself as a brand, each individual as a brand essence essentially is going in, asking yourself exactly who you are, what you stand for, and what you want to achieve, moving forward. And it's as simple as that. And if you treat your brand like an individual, I think this is where you understand what brand essence means. It's just not a list of questions. It's really understanding what you stand for and exactly what is your purpose and values, so that when you move forward, you know exactly how to move forward, and what's right, what's wrong for you, and how you can manage challenges moving forward, because you're very, very clear in terms of your purpose. So after this, we'll take you through a bit more. We'll elaborate the questions, and then I will show you some examples of how certain brands identify and work with their brand essence.
So basically, it's if you look at it, it goes back to your brand goals, in terms of what you want to do. It goes back to what you do in terms of your product USP, and at the end of the day, it's also your values basically guides you in terms of how you do what you do. So it sort of combines everything together into one particular statement that you stay true throughout the journey, right? So if you look at some of the examples, some of the big brands out there, from Volvo, Disney, Grab, I'm thinking some local examples here, Airbnb, Nike, and here, everyone will have, every one of these big brands have, we call it a brand essence. Whether it's going to be one word, or whether it's going to be a couple of words, each will definitely define who this brand is. I'd like to ask the floor, anyone out there, can you sort of type in what do you think the brand essence of Volvo is, or Disney, Grab, Airbnb, Nike, and IKEA? Can you just do a quick chat and type in your answers for this one? Are there any responses so far?
There's one interesting one for Disney. Vincent suggests that it's children's dreams.
That's interesting. Yeah.
It's close.
Yeah.
And then Nashmin says it's safety, perhaps, for Volvo, safety, which is good also.
Yeah.
And Candace for Disney, happiest place on earth. All pretty close, you guys are pretty good.
Yeah.
And for IKEA, from Sufis, quality, affordable furnishing.
Okay.
Anwar for Grab, anything wherever you are, food, blah, 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 etc. Nike, just do it, from Vincent.
Okay.
Pretty
great.
close.
Yeah,
Close.
very good, very good.
I
So,
understand the brand essence is good.
which
Everyone
is
can be a two-face for Nike. That's
anyone
very
what?
close.
Yeah.
Anyone can be an athlete.
Yes, yes. So if you look at it from I think someone mentioned Volvo, the word safety came about. I think that's spot on. It's about Disney, it's all about happiness and all that. Um, Grab is almost like a super app that almost covers every part of our lives. Anyone for Airbnb? How come there's no one from Airbnb? Any thoughts about Airbnb? It's not relevant now because it's COVID. And then of course Nike, the word athleticism is always
Sa'ad, someone said, Najmin said Airbnb is home wherever you are.
okay, close.
Yeah.
So
Or home anywhere from Sufis.
Yeah.
yeah, okay, this is basically across the board. I've sort of did a bit of research across. Some of them I actually have not actually defined their brand essence, but most of them did. So basically, these are the brand essence for Volvo, safety, just one word, which is they've been doing for the start, right? And Disney, it's a magical place, like technically. The word magical is something that basically, and I know someone mentioned it's the happiest place in the world. It's because of who they are, the brand essence of it being magical. Grab, through their interviews and all that, and through their latest corporate video, uh, they're saying that it makes lives better, right? Airbnb is about belonging. You belong somewhere. Actually, you belong to anywhere. Actually, Nike, Nike. There's a bit of toss up in terms of whether it's going to be about inspiration, but most of them are saying that it's athletic performance. And IKEA, although they've not actually had the brand essence, I've been trying to research what IKEA is, but in in essence, they are about celebrating life. So again, everyone has at least one or two words that basically describe who they are. And from then, actually, you can actually tell through their communications or through the marketing. It's always consistent with that particular definition and all that. And I like to go into one particular one. I think Nike is the best example. I think everyone understands Nike, and everyone sort of is involved, whether in terms of actually wearing their clothing or whether putting on their shoes and all that. And also, I think most of us are exposed to a lot of advertising from Nike, and they've been very consistent through all their pieces of communications, whether in terms of their posters back then, right up to what they do with their shoes. Even the look of the shoes look very fun and very athletic. So it's always that promise in terms of performance and athleticism that's always coming out from Nike. And they've been saying this for the longest time, even though there's competition by Under Armour, Adidas, Puma. Everyone's trying to go into the athletic space, but Nike has been very consistent with that particular brand essence, and they've been moving it in that direction, whether or not in terms of through what call it social messaging about equality, about Black Lives Matters. It's still going back to the idea of performance. It's the idea of winning, the idea of athleticism. There's always that idea of running and challenging each other.
Yeah.
So what even with yeah.
Sorry, sorry to interrupt. I'm just looking at Nike, and I just wanted to add that, if you look at Nike, and they are proof that how important brand essence is. And brand essence goes beyond like a tagline. I mean, we all know Nike's tagline is just do it, but that's just an advertising tagline. But if you look at their product ads, a lot of them, they don't use just do it. For example, you look at the Air, the gravity will never be the same. The Nike Air boots ad, it just says Nike Air. But because of it has a very strong brand essence, there's always consistency in the way they show and they do things, because the brand essence is very, very strong. So if you look at the examples we showed earlier on, they were all brand essence, and most of them you will notice that the brand essence eventually propels them to their taglines. And usually their tagline, advertising taglines or communication ends up being like a very simple, clever articulation of their brand essence. So brand essence is really, really important, because once you are clear about who you are and what your, as Sa'ad says, your North Star is, then your opportunities open up. You can do all kinds of things because you know exactly who you are. You can behave very confidently, and that's how you grow consumers' love and respect. And Nike is like, I'm glad we have this today, because Nike is a perfect example. Anything that Nike brings out tomorrow, even though you don't like the design, but you respect the brand, because they've been very, very consistent, and you know what the brand stands for. They're very clear what they stand for.
And I think both Ed and I have been doing Adidas. We always look at Nike and say, how do we outdo Adidas, outdo Nike and all that. It's always a very competitive world within the athletic brands and all of that. But Nike has been always consistent throughout. I mean, you look at even the agency who's basically handling Nike. They've been there since day one, right? Nike. So consistency in terms of who you partner is also there. So they've been always delivering the right kind of product or advertising or marketing for Nike itself. So I think partnership with the brands or the brand makers or the agencies that you're with is also very important in terms of consistency. Right? So let's look at the first ad that Nike has basically created.
I run 17 miles every morning. People ask me how I keep my teeth from chattering in the wintertime. I leave them in my locker.
So very little shots of the shoe. There's nothing young about this, but it shows that even through old age, I mean, as you have the spirit of athleticism and all that, Nike basically embraced that, right? So even this is one of the first few ads that Nike ran. It also shows something different. I mean, typically everyone would just want to show the shoe as an ad, right? But I think Nike was spot on in terms of the spirit of athleticism has always been there from the start. Even to the current day, I think the latest commercial for International Women's Day, have a look.
One day, we won't need this day. We won't need a day to celebrate how far we've come. We won't need a day to prove we're just as fast or strong or skilled. We won't need a day to relive the comebacks, the firsts, or the titles we've won. We won't need a day to rally behind the ones fighting to change the rules. One day, we won't need this day at all. Because one day, this day, will be our everyday.
So as we move forward to the current day, they even dropped their logo, their tagline, just do it. The logo itself speaks volume in terms of who Nike is. And as you can see, it's not just about the shoe, right, or the athletic wear. It's about the spirit and how they now embrace in terms of social and cultural, in terms of not just about, they embrace equality. They embrace in terms of, justice and equal rights and all that. So it's not. It means they really go into everyone's lives and not just about athletics, athletes and all that, right? So that's a good thing about Nike. I mean, they will get into trouble with different governments and all that, but they stay true to what they believe. And again, it goes back to that brand essence that they have.
And if you look at the two spots that Sa'ad has just shown, the first one with the old man was a very, very old film. And then obviously the one with the women is more recent. But the brand voice, the brand essence is consistent. You can feel that it's from the same brand. So in 5 years, 10 years from now, no matter what the social situation is in the world, if this, I think Nike will survive that because they are staying true to their brand essence. Adidas has lost their way a little bit. I think most of you understand. Before they used to have nothing is impossible or impossible is nothing. It was pretty much the same area as Nike. But now they moved into fashion, they became a bit more trendy and all that. They kind of lost their way a little bit. But you look at Nike, every year, year in, year out, they are very consistent with their brand essence. You can feel the brand, you can feel them. And like Sa'ad said, it's reached a point where you don't have to show their product anymore because people feel for the brand. And you know, I really like to see how Nike will behave, you know, still using their brand essence as their brand springboard. I think it's very interesting to see how they behave in the next 5 years. You know, they evolve. They are a very interesting brand to watch.
Yeah, even in, I mean, this is the ad I'm going to show is another example of Nike in China. Again, it doesn't have to follow that Western kind of ideals and all that. So what they apply in China is slightly different, but still that brand essence of who Nike is still there. Do have a look.
新年快乐！
我妈说不能收。哎呀，
已经放你兜里了。新年快乐！
谢谢姑姑，但我不能要。
乖，拿着。
不用了。
新年快乐！拿着上学用。
真的不用了。
拿着，还跟姑姑客气呢。
我哪有你客气啊？
毕业了，拿去玩。拿着。红包，
回家，谢姑，那咱回家吧。姑姑，新年快乐！不客气，不客气，不客气。
So it's, again, I love this commercial. It's so relevant to Asians, and I think we can relate to it. But again, that competitive spirit, the athleticism, performance, and all that is there within the commercial. Love the sport. It's very funny, but again, very Asian. Ed, have you seen such a sport for Adidas in China?
No, I think that again, I keep repeating because we're on the topic of brand essence. Somebody just now said, somebody suggested that the brand essence for Nike is there's an athlete in all of us. I think that's close to what they're trying to do. They're trying to say. So once you have an essence like that, right, you open up, like I said, all kinds of communication. You can get serious, you can get emotional, you can get lighthearted like this, because you're already confident of who you are. And through the years, the more confident you are, the more respect you get. And you can get away with all kinds of things once you have that kind of confidence and respect from the consumers. They look at it and they say, haha, that's so Nike because it's so true, it's spot on, because the brand has been true to themselves. They've never wavered from anything else. It's all about athleticism. There's an athlete in all of us. It's about, just doing it, the spirit of being an athlete. And they've owned that essence. So it's very hard for any brand right now to take that from them. And I believe that they're going to go from strength to strength to strength.
Yeah, true. Okay, we have to move along quite fast. Looks like we've slowly have another half an hour left. So in the end, why do we need brand essence? I think there's a couple of reasons. Well, it basically helps your marketing. If you look at Nike again, with the right brand essence and all that, whatever you do, there's always that North Star for you to basically plan your marketing around it. And because of that, it helps, maintain certain brand consistency. Again, going back to that one word or that sentence that you have that defines who you are, will allow you to be doing things that is based on that, and we definitely be consistent throughout. And because of that consistency and brand message and brand essence that you have, the customers will understand who you are. They will like you in the first place. Then slowly over time, they will definitely fall in love with you. And like Ed said, you can get away with anything if you are so head over heels with that brand. And you basically be loyal customers uh, right to the end, right? So that's where we want to be as a brand. You must make sure that your target audience will just love you and embrace you and basically be your spokesperson for your brand.
Especially at this stage, right? When you're starting up, I think from our experience, the brand essence is so important. If you have to stay up all night for a week, for a month, to nail down what your brand essence is, it is really crucial. Because especially now, yeah, I mean, with the COVID situation, I mean, it doesn't get easier. It's going to get tougher and tougher. So you really rely on your brand essence. You really need to know who you are, what you stand for, so you can face your challenges confidently. So when you face with any problems, you can go, okay, this is the situation. But as being who we are, how would we behave? How should we move forward? You need to know yourself first before you can take a step forward. So at this stage, your brand essence is really, really important. If you can't find it and you cannot identify that, you'll stumble, especially when you get bigger and you have more partners, or you face different market challenges. You'll stumble because it's not clear in your mind what you stand for. So, one big piece of advice at this stage: spend the time with your partners or as yourself. Identify what exactly is your brand essence, what you stand for. Then you can go into, okay, where we are at right now, where we want to be in terms of a business or a brand, and how we're going to do it. All that will come together once we have clarity exactly who you are, what your purpose is, and what you stand for. It may sound to many of us, we want to start up right now because we want to quickly get the company going and make money and sell off and retire, whatever it is. But if you want to start a brand, your brand essence is key. What if you boil everything down, what's that one line or one word that explains exactly who you are? Then you take that forward. Without that, at this stage, based on my experience, a lot of young brands stumble. They start off with a great offering, a great idea, a great marketing plan. And then when everything starts to roll and they get bigger, they get more successful, they stumble because they reach a point where they reach like a fork where they cannot decide what to do because they don't know who they are.
And remember, you're leaving a legacy. I mean, and you won't be at the helm most of the time, right? So it's with the brand essence and all that. Actually, you can actually download it down to your next in line, to your team, to the whole company. So everyone will embrace this brand essence. So it lives on even if you maybe moved up the ladder and go into more bigger things or outside of the group and all that. So the essence will always be there. People will always will believe, embrace it, and basically live it, right? So I think it's the most important thing that a lot of big brands even out there have forgotten, right? Because they're just so focused in trying to just make money. They forget that why are they here to make money for? It's always been forgotten. So we've seen this. I think we've seen this through so many brands through our lives. I mean, both of us, Ed and I, sometimes we get frustrated because it's such a great brand, but they just lose it because of someone new coming over and wanting to change everything, but they move away from the brand essence. So it's very important that this key word or key sentence guide you moving forward through the years and through its different size of a company and all that. So I just going to give you another example. I think Grab do a bit of a local example in terms of how they sort of embrace make lives better. Initially, when Anthony Tan started up his My Taxi app back about 10 years back, I mean, I know Anthony, and when he started out, I also questioned in terms of, are you sure you want to do a taxi business? It's so tough, especially in Malaysia and all that. And at that point in time, again, they don't have a brand essence. I think all they wanted to do is just launch a good ad that basically is fast, it is safe, and gives security to passengers and all that. So, but as they moved along through time, it goes beyond just a ride-hailing app, right? You know that now they are a decathlon, and now what they feature is a super app that basically almost cuts across every aspect of everyone's life in terms of whether it's food, whether it's shopping, whether it's delivery, or whether it's a cab, right? So, and they've expanded across Asia. So they've sort of redefined themselves. And I think the brand essence of making lives better is quite true to who they are. And it is seen through this, one of their corporate ads. I think they just recently launched this. Um, and again, it's about embracing diversity, embracing challenging people, or people who are handicapped and challenged. They embrace that and giving them opportunities to basically earn a living. And I think that's what a great company should be, right? It's about reaching out to the less fortunate and all that, and giving them opportunities to basically make a living and make our lives better as a whole.
Southeast Asia is a place brimming with ambition, but also limitations. Millions face challenges in their everyday lives. That's why we've created the Everyday Everything app, a platform that's creating new possibilities for millions of people to thrive, just like Alicia.
My Jolly Chip serve many food like sisig sarada. Jolly Chip is very traditional. Because of the ground technology, we can reach out so many people, not just in Makati, but everywhere. Now, I have new sets of regular customers that I have never seen. Because my business is better now, I can take care of my family, especially now that I have my grandchildren.
Now that local restaurants can reach more customers, Grab Food is helping to level the playing field. But sometimes, the obstacles aren't to do with money, but independence.
I was a very active person. I played soccer, I played golf. When I first got stricken by stroke, I just found myself useless. My wife has to carry the role of the single breadwinner in the house. I just can't let her do it. I have to get back up again and do it for my family. And with Grab employing people like me, it gives me a chance to prove to the rest of the world that I don't have to depend on anyone else to move around.
And Mokhtar's not the only one, proving that you can overcome what life throws at you. Rudianto is one of the 100 million unbanked we'll be helping access the digital economy by 2023.
Sebelum saya punya rekening itu, saya simpen di laci mungkin. Ada sedikit kewaswasan juga, takut diambil, belum kenal yang namanya digital gitu. Dan itu Grab memberikan solusi bahwa Grab bisa memberikan rekening. Saya bekerja bersama Grab itu udah 4 tahun. Saya kumpulin tuh, alhamdulillah saya sudah bisa bangun rumah. Saya bisa cicil mobil. Setelah itu cita-cita saya menikah.
And there are thousands of other people and businesses well on the way to reaching their dreams. One such business is PIXERF Super.
Okay, I'll just cut this short. I think you can see where Grab is going with the brand and all that. I know you in Malaysia. There's a lot of festive ads that Grab has come to. They've even done an ad for some of the challenge so-called disabled people, and I think there's one for someone with hearing impairment and all that who basically Grab helped out. But within the so-called super app atmosphere that we have, I mean, they also facing competition. I mean, people like Gojek is coming in, and they themselves come out with a brand essence of one-touch life solutions. It's quite similar to what Grab is. So again, Grab has to be reminded and remind themselves basically they don't live on their own, right? They have competition like Gojek who's coming and biting at their heels. So they themselves have to basically making sure that their brand, they just follow their brand essence. For sure, there'll be copycats out there. I mean, Gojek is definitely trying to be like them. So they have to definitely be aware of who their competition is, just like how Nike has to be aware of how Adidas can always come out and take up their market share. So being consistent is very important. I'll skip a couple of slides. So defining brand essence, in short, how do you define? I think these are just key questions that you have to ask yourself when you need to define your brand essence. The first question, is it unique? You have to look at your competitors and all that. Is it within your industry? Is your brand essence unique, right? Is it focused? Sometimes it's just too broad in terms of definition of who you are. Like, I'm here to make money. I think that's not a good brand essence. Everyone's here to make money. But who you are as a brand or as a company, try to look at maybe something that stands out within who you are as a brand or the product itself, and basically put it into your brand essence. Is it experiential? That means does it create or bring out certain emotions? Just one look at that sentence, one look at that word, does it bring a lot of other emotions that goes with the brand? Is it consistent, right? So it's going back to who you are as a brand and going back to the why you start out this brand. Everything has to be consistent. That means making sure that everything that you do is consistent throughout your activities, your product, the way you create your product, the way you market your product, and the way you talk to your target audience. Is it authentic? Again, is it something that comes from your heart, right? You have to really go back to who you are as founders. Why did you create this brand? And I think there's always an artificial reason, but what you need to do is basically, what is the true reason why you came up with this particular product or brand that you want to build? Is it timeless? Can it go across multiple generations, across space, across locations, so across countries and all that? So it's something that we need to make sure that this brand essence is understood across many generations and across many countries. And lastly, is it scalable? Because remember, your product doesn't stay at one point. You might scale your product, you might collaborate with other partners, you might actually go beyond your product streams and do something different altogether. Just like how Grab has done, right? It's gone from a ride-hailing app to almost a super app that covers almost everything in our lives, right? So this is basically how you define your brand essence. Look at these questions, ask yourself this, and most probably you find this particular statement that defines who you are.
The other important thing about something more practical benefit of brand essence is not just about knowing who you are. As startups, you reach a point where you want to get investors to come in and give you money so that you can grow. Now, if you have a clear brand essence, they will ask for it. Why should I give you money, for example? Why do I invest in that? The brand essence will help you show what's unique about you, what's so special about you. Will help your long-term plans, and it will help in your funding in many ways, because it shows that you thought about it, you know who you are, and you have future-proof your brand and your whatever plans that you have. So it's not just sitting down there and go who we are, because I think I know I sound like a broken record, but it's really, really important, this brand essence. Spend time thinking about it, because one day you'll need it. And for startups, it's when you want funding. Your investors want to know that, and you have a clear brand essence that will help a lot.
Okay, moving on, I think brand essence, if you look at it in summary, it is your North Star. It is your guiding light, right? If you can keep that brand essence, that statement short, if it's the one word, I think the better it is. It's more concise, it's more focused. Again, make it unique so that it stands out from everyone else. And because once you define that, no one else can copy. Everyone wants to copy what Nike is, right? But you really sort of establish yourself who you are within that space. and again, stay authentic to your brand and to who you are. And I think we move on to the next more interesting stuff, because with the brand essence, you can actually define who and how you're going to say it, right? So it's basically what is your tone, your style, and personality. We're moving to the second part of our presentation, where basically we look in terms of what brand voice is. In a way, it is like an expression of your brand, right? Your personality, your values, and your beliefs, right? And sometimes it's expressed, most of the time it's expressed in words, right? But images, sound, action is basically what we wanted your brand voice to be. Because sometimes it's not something that what you read, especially in this internet social media age. It's the images that you portray, right? It's the sound that you play, and even it's the action that you basically, or the behavior that you do within your brand. It is not about, it's not how you speak, but also the words that you use. I think you might think that maybe it's a copywriter's job, but it goes back to the brand owner. The behavior, the words that you choose, and all that basically defines who you are as a brand. And again, it's about the rhythm and pace. If you look at Nike, it's always about energy and fast pace and all that. These also will define who you are as, in terms of your voice and your tone. It basically tells you almost like a human person, right? In terms of when I speak, whether it's going to be a very slow, calming voice, or am I very highly energetic? So your brand is that, you are that human persona of the brand, right? So going back to the same examples or same brands that we've done, we looked at brand essence, and everyone will have their own brand voice or tone. You look at how Volvo is basically positioned in terms of it being very intelligent, confident, comforting, professional. While Disney being magical, it has to be colorful, animated, almost childlike, right? Because they are more like a storyteller, and it's always fun, right? You look at Grab, which they say, yeah, we make lives better, right? So here is where it is slightly smart. It's of course very positive. It's simple, again, goes back to the app, the application of just two-touch kind of thing to deliver your service or product. It's very comforting, and more importantly, I think for Grab, it's very inclusive. Airbnb is about belonging anywhere. So it has to be trendy. You want to basically stay in the best apartments, studios, or bungalows around the world. It has to be worldly. That's who they are as a brand voice. Adventurous, friendly, and happy. Nike, as we know, is very exciting, aggressive, provocative, cool, and inspirational. And IKEA, a brand that we always love, is basically celebrating life through being very simple, very upfront. And recently, they're becoming more fun in terms of how they deliver their messaging. Here's a good example of IKEA.
But I must confess, this place ain't blessed. This place is a mess. Disgusting. No, you don't deserve no guest. No. In here, I don't want to lay down or rest. Are you crazy? That crack in the wall needs addressing. The state of the floor is just depressing, man. This table's older than the pyramids. Older? At least it's younger than the mirror is. This place is smooth, and it's barely a house. Never mind the cat, you couldn't even swing a mouse. It's so small. Those curtains are looking tired. Decorations are tired. Look, your style is fired. It's like somebody hit you with a bulldozer. But if your house is a car, it will get pulled over. Excuse me, please. This is very, 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 very unacceptable. Oh my God.
Silence the critics. IKEA, the wonderful everyday.
Fresh and clean.
so they've moved on to something that's very again, it's very family oriented and all that, and it's very fun. You still see their product, you know, that's something that they've always showcased in all their communications and all that. And I love to share with you what Malaysia did for when IKEA launched their store in KL, which is this. I think it's very witty in terms of how it's done.
You people wanna dance, you're not the only one. Join the doodle-rolls and girly-ons and the puppies. Follow the lyric, twist it, wriggle it, shake your arse. Notice, let's go! Come on, just get your ass, toot your ass. Come on, just get your ass, toot your ass. Come on, just get your ass, toot your ass, get your ass to IKEA. You said you want to circle, show your method on. Put your hands in the air, feet got all day. Is that your best one?
I love the way that they use all the Swedish names, which always confuses us kind of by products. And I like the play of Cheras. If you look at it, it's a very sneaky way of putting get your S to Cheras in terms of messaging. Again, I think it's a wonderful thing that the agency did for IKEA when they launched this in Cheras, IKEA in KL. Again, that brand essence and the brand voice is always fun. But at the same time, I think you look at in terms of how colorful and fun it is, it's also very inclusive in terms of its brand. So, you know, they do product innovations and all that, and basically they reach out to the disabled and all that. So this is a good example of how IKEA is expanding across different parts of our lives also.
Hi, I'm Eldal, 32 years old. Although I have cerebral palsy, I do everything I can to conduct myself like everyone else. But in my own home, of all places, I'm surrounded with furniture crying out, cripple. I'd like to sit on a regular sofa without being afraid I won't be able to get up, to open a regular closet, or even to turn on a regular lamp.
1 in every 10 people in Israel is a disabled person. The IKEA design vision gave birth to the Disables Project. Smart hacks making IKEA's best-selling items accessible. The project was created in collaboration with 2 NGOs, Milbot and Access Israel, and started off in the IKEA store with a hackathon of product engineers and disabled people that enabled better understanding of their needs. In the end of the developing process, 13 new products were born, each solving a different accessibility issue, such as sofa elevating legs for easier ascending, lamp button enlargement, special handles for PAX closets, and more. The new products are presented in the world's first accessible living spaces in the IKEA stores. The new models are available for download from the project's website, disables.com, and 3D printing anywhere in the world. So that Eldar, Dina, Pavel, Inbal, Moshe, Tahel, and Riel can also feel comfortable in their own homes like everybody else.
Now they should come up with products that assemble themselves.
So there's always fun. It's all about celebrating life. It's all very optimistic. And the fact that now IKEA has gone beyond themselves and partnering with fun products like Lego, Adidas, even designer products and hypebeast products like Virgil Abloh's designs. So these are basically how, you know, how they've sort of evolved through time. It's not about themselves, but about partners who basically make a dent in all our lives. You want to add in anything?
No, I'm just saying, you know, it's clear. I mean, I know we are just trying to say a lot within an hour here, but I think essentially, if you look at IKEA, for example, you know, it's boiling down to brand essence, and you know, from brand essence to brand voice. It's basically once you know who you are, you know how to behave, basically. And brand voice doesn't just mean advertising or TV commercials. Brand voice is a behavior. So whether you do a promotion or you do let's just say you want to launch yourself in exhibition, an expo, and how do you decorate your stall, for example. Once there's clarity in your brand essence and your brand voice, then you know exactly how to, design your store, for example. Or if you want to send out something very simple like a direct mailer, you know exactly what to do because you know how to behave. So essentially, that's what we're trying to cover today. There's a lot. If you've seen the brand canvas, there's a lot of boxes to tick. But essentially, especially if you're a startup right now, you want to begin something new. I think the brand essence is very important. And once you identify that, and then you just know how to behave, and then through your behavior, you'll gain, respect, confidence, and recognition from your consumers, whoever they are. You could be an engineering firm, you could be a pharmaceutical company, you could be some sort of like home education, whatever you're offering. You just need to know who you are so that you know how to behave, you know how to talk to the consumers, and you build their confidence and affinity to your brand.
Yeah. So like what Alice mentioned is in summary, basically it is expression of the people behind the brand. I think that's very important. If you look at how Steve Jobs sort of built the brand, you know that Apple is all about Steve Jobs, and basically is how the brand voice of Apple came about. And it basically sets you apart from the rest of your competition. I think that's how you do the way the brand behaves and all that would definitely be very distinctive from all other competitors out there. And again, because of that distinction, it builds familiarity, it builds trust, it builds loyalty within your target audience itself. And to some point also, it allows you to be easily persuaded and easily influenced in terms of moving towards loving that product and buying that product and all that. So again, brand behavior actually is almost like building trust. It's almost having that charismatic voice that you can trust, right? And you basically believe in whatever you say and whatever the brand says, right? And it goes back with Nando's. I think Malaysia, Nando's has always been a very fun brand. Their brand essence basically fiery because of what they sell in terms of their very, very sauce and all that. And within their brand behavior or brand voice, there's passion, it's colorful, it's creative, it's irreverent, and very playful to the point that sometimes it crosses the line and maybe breaks certain rules and regulations. I won't go through all this, but I think for Nando's itself, I think we've been loving the brand. I mean, I've dealt with Nando's personally, and we built that brand across the last 10 years. And we do things that are basically people sometimes, especially the authorities, frown on, but we get away with it. But that's who Nando's is, and that's how we build the fan base and the loyalists for the brand itself, right? So I think if you have the right kind of brand voice, it helps, sort of brings, in fact, it helps brings the company together. It's almost like a brand belief where everyone comes together and say, hey, this is who we are, and this is how we speak, and this is how we behave. And it will go through, if it's the right kind of brand voice, every single staff that you have in your company will actually live with it. It's almost like Nike where staff will basically tattoo the logo on their ankles and all that. It's if you believe in the brand voice, you will definitely be part of the whole culture. And that's another story in terms of brand culture and all that. So when you do a brand voice, when you need to define, basically you need to also look at your brand values in terms of who you are. Think about your audience. I think target audience is also very important. You have to do something and behave in the right way to the right target audience rather than trying to reach out to maybe older set of target audience and suddenly it just doesn't fit. So again, you have to make sure that you have your audience in mind when you create that brand voice. And it's about your personality, right? So you need to basically create a fun personality or a personality that everyone sort of accepts, right? And with that also you create a style guide. Basically it helps you guide in terms of how you behave, the colors that you use, the sound that you use, and even the tone and the pitch of your voice when you present, right? So these are part and parcel how you build a brand voice. And in short, in summary, for brand voice, it's not what you say, but how you say it. I think that's very important. It's just a basic summary of what brand voice is. And it's based on a human personality. If you can match a brand with a particular person, whether an actor, a Tom Cruise, or whether it's going to be a Miley Cyrus, if you can match that to a brand, I think that would be your brand voice for your company and for your staff to follow. And again, it has this so-called charisma within your brand, again, to allow for better and easy persuasion in terms of people to love your brand and to basically buy your brand and your products. So that's all. I'm not sure whether we have any time for questions, but please do still send your questions in, and we will try to answer and email to you certain answers. And thank you for your time. I think it's the first session. It's slightly long, but I hope you've benefited from what we've shared with you today. Again, there are 10 boxes, and you really want to really help you in your brand canvas, please reach out to us. We're here to help you. And we'll have a one-to-one session with all brand owners. I think it's going to be a fun journey, and those who have gone through a brand session with us have actually enjoyed it and actually created a brand canvas that's beneficial to their company and to their staff. Thank you. And Ed, last words?
No, I'm just looking forward to wishing all of you all the very best. I'm sure you have big plans and big ideas. Just remember what you've learned, or whatever you picked up this morning. I wish you all the best. And if you guys have any more questions, come and talk to us. If you need help on the brand canvas, talk to us. Yeah, it's exciting times for everybody. So we are here to help, and just let us know how we can be part of your, your success story, I hope.
Thanks so much, Sa'ad and Ed. Okay, so we are now going to open the floor to questions. So if you would like to speak, just let me know. Just drop me a message in the chat, and then I'll unmute you so you can ask your question, or you can just direct all your questions onto the chat, and I can ask the gentleman. So we've got about 10 minutes to spare for Q&A. Anybody has any questions?
Or you can type it in.
Oh yeah, you can type it in and I'll read it out if you're shy.
And once I know, yeah.
Yes.
Hello, Mr. Sa'ad. Hello, Edmund.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks very much for your presentation just now. I just have a question, really. So, in terms of brand essence, what really struck me was when you said that you have to be consistent with who you are. I just want to get your thoughts, because one of the things that happened in the past really fascinates me in terms of, for example, Nokia and Kodak. I think they were companies that really dominated in the 1990s and the early 2000s. I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on that? Is it because they are really known to be companies that failed because they failed to change with the time? Especially when Apple came into the market with the iPhone, when digital cameras were in the market. Is it an issue with the fact that they did not change their brand essence, or is it something else? I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Okay, I'll try and answer that, because when I was at TBWA, I worked with Apple, and those two brands came up in one of our workshops. I think Kodak and Nokia suffered in two areas, right? One is definitely brand essence. They were not consistent, and they don't really understand what they stood for. If you look at Kodak just refused to keep up with the times. So they suffered product innovation. They lacked product innovation. They didn't keep up with the times. They stayed, very much where they were as the world took over and evolved, and they just didn't keep up. And they didn't keep up because their brand essence did not, include that bit, the whole innovation bit. They probably stood for some traditional, great, families together, or I don't know what their brand essence was. but it clearly did not involve keeping up with the times. So I think that's our, with Nokia pretty much the same. Nokia was very, in terms of their communication, very inconsistent. One moment they're talking about technology, the next moment they try to be like Apple, and then the next moment they are, they try and produce like a cheaper variant so that they can achieve certain sales. So they're very inconsistent. In fact, they are both, if you ask me, they are both very good examples of brands who lack, brand essence, which means they didn't really sit back and thought about it properly. With Apple, the reason why Apple is very successful is because from the very start, Steve Jobs knew exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted what he wanted to create and what the brand stood for. If you notice, Apple doesn't do a lot of partnerships because a lot of brands find it very difficult when they work at Apple, because Apple always says, okay, you want to partner with us, but why? Tell me one reason the partnership will make people's lives better, because that was what Apple's brand essence is, right? I mean, they want to create things that will make people's lives better. So a lot of partners cannot give them that reason, and that's why they don't partner. They just carry on doing what they believe in. If people like beautiful things, smart things, practical things, they keep creating the same thing again and again. And they're very consistent in their brand essence. Everything that Apple produces, they may not be the latest technology. They don't have to innovate all the time. They keep up with innovations, but their brand essence is always very consistent. It's all about the product. It's all about making people's lives better. It's all about improving lives around the world. So, it's all about making people's lives better. So they've been very consistent. But having said that, Steve Jobs at Apple, totally two personalities. Apple as a brand, he's developed very friendly, very innovative, very beautiful, very stylish, design-led, innovation-led, for better lives. And it's a very friendly product. Steve Jobs, on the other hand, was quite an unpleasant person. He was very rough to work with, but he was smart enough to, I guess, if you're a startup and you want to start a new brand, I think one thing that you can learn from Apple is that you have to be able to separate yourself away from your brand. Don't make a brand you. You must be very clear about what your brand needs to stand for, and you have to separate yourself from that very clearly. I know that's a slightly different, what you call it, area.
Did you know that, a good question. I think Kodak is a great legendary, I mean, it's an iconic brand and all that. In fact, they were the ones who created the first digital camera. In fact, they innovated that and they failed to go on and basically develop it further. I mean, they're about image making. I think that's the main brand essence. But they should have actually embraced technology. And that's something that they did not do. They thought that digital was just a passing fad. And didn't want to embrace it. So they felt that a lot of people would still want to go back to film and traditional ways of doing image making and all that. So that's a failure. So it's more of, I think, more of the onus of failing to embrace change and evolving with times. Just like, Nokia, same thing. And even, actually, you look at the great companies, great electronic company, Philips. I think back then when we were doing Sony, I think Philips was technically the most advanced in terms of their thinking for innovation and all that. Just that they didn't push the product further in terms of making products that was available, that was right for the current generation of 5G and all that. 20 years ago, they had a book, right? I don't know, Ed, you remember this. They had a book basically talks about seamless integration of all devices across your home, and that was done like 20 years ago. Before, I mean, it's only possible it was done with 5G and with Internet of Things. And so again, a lot of companies have dropped out because I think they have not had enough stamina to push through. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's companies like Apple and hopefully the new startups and all that, like Grab and all that, will say that journey and have that stamina to go through different decades and centuries. There's a few other questions that I'll look at it. I'll try to answer it quickly. I think the focus between brand essence and product, I know a lot of people, like when you do your startup, you just want to get your product out and all that. Do not forget that before your product goes out to market, you need to build a brand first. It's very important. A product without a logo, without a brand, is just another piece of service of product, which I can white label it and cut across other owners. So the brand itself basically defines who you are. It's important to start with the branding of your company and who you are. Define who you are first before you start pushing your product out to the market. Even the product itself, when you develop a product, it will be based on your brand essence and brand brand vision and brand mission. That's why it's important to have that brand canvas to start out with before you start any other marketing of products and to sell your products out there. There's one question: what opinions on creating a fictional persona to embrace the brand or be the voice? I think it's one way to because sometimes the company or marketers or brand owners do not have that persona to basically sell your brand, right? So sometimes you create a character to sell a brand. I think that's one way to move it forward. But if you start creating a character out of for your brand and all that, you have to stick to that formula through the years and be innovative in terms of how you evolve that particular character through the years. So it's almost like how Disney has done it, right? Disney is all about characters and all that. So they develop characters across time that basically appeals to both children and even to families. And as they move along, they embrace other characters. I mean, the reason why they embrace Disney and embrace Star Wars and all that is basically to basically build more characters within their so-called ecosystem or their world, their fun imaginary world. So you can actually create personas or characters to basically represent who you are as a brand. But the brand itself, that character itself, will have that human attributes that basically have that tone and voice that basically talks about or behaves, basically showcase who you are as a brand. I hope I've answered that question correctly.
Okay, we've just got...
Sorry.
No, sorry, we've just got one more question. Sorry, we're gonna have to wrap this up. So one last question Amelia is asking is, she'd like to know if it's all right for a startup to work on the brand essence slowly and build that over time so that they can focus on the product.
If possible, we work on the brand essence first before you work on the product. The product development will take some time, right? In terms of, but at the same time, I think the team should just sit down and define who you are as a brand, whether it's your brand mission, your brand vision, your brand essence, who your target audience is, and these are the very important basics that you have to do as a startup. Then as you go along, then you build your brand.
I mean, example is Apple again, when Steve Jobs set up to develop the world's first personal computer. So he was very focused on creating the product, but at the same time, he knew what the brand stands for and what, how this product will help launch that brand. So maybe if your product is really, really key, then maybe your brand essence is somewhere in that product, but you need to spend some time and find out, why are we creating this product? Why is it also special? Maybe moving forward, our brand is about this product. This product helps people do blah, 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 or this product helps make blah, blah, blah. And maybe somewhere in that, you can start with the product, but I think if trying the brand essence first, but that's how Apple started, right? I mean, when he wanted to build the world's first personal computer, and it kind of took off from there. Your brand essence could be in the product itself, the reason why you created that product.
Okay, so that wraps up Sa'ad and Ed session. Once again, thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.